Grind, grind, grind all day long. Grind, grind, grind while I sing this. I'm sorry. I'm not. You guys probably shouldn't listen to me singing, should you? No, I know it's bad. But this is easy, which is kind of cool. Hey everyone, I'm Brian with FrenchPressCoffee.com. Thank you as always for tuning into our channel. And despite my off-key singing there, I was actually really enjoying grinding with the Lido ET that I was just grinding coffee with. And this is an excellent grinder if you have an espresso machine, you want to grind very fine with your coffee. And this is one I think that is worth paying attention to if you're looking to do that, and if you like manual grinding, which I do know that some folks are really into that. I found that I'm starting to enjoy it a lot more as well lately as myself. Let's talk about the features of the Lido ET. It is a manual coffee grinder, as I was mentioning. It has an integrated bean loading funnel, which is something I really enjoy because it's really easy to pour beans into this thing. Folding crank handle, which is also useful for traveling. The crank handle doesn't stick out. You can just fold it right in. That makes it easy to carry. In also as well the included carrying bag, which is super cool. There's a soft grip turning knob, which this is nice. The knob is rubberized, so it's really easy to grab and not slip around when you're using it. Large bean hopper, which that's true. This is a very large bean hopper for a manual grinder, actually. Dual bronze axle bearings, stepless adjustment, unbreakable steel conic burr. I believe that. I've looked at the burrs on the Lido and they're real solid. And then it also features a anti-static grinds jar or ground jar. And the materials of this are aluminum, stainless steel, and BPA-free plastic. And the Lido weighs in at about 1,096 grams, so it's not too heavy, but it's also heavy enough that it feels good in the hand and it doesn't slide everywhere when you're grinding with it. You may have seen that when in my intro there's actually really easy to just grind with, which also speaks to the quality of the burrs because that's going to make it a lot easier to grind as well. Let's talk about the grinding mechanism on the Lido ET and just overall how it works. Also, by the way, here I have a stainless steel grounds catch jar, which you can get at FrenchPressCoffee.com if you have a Lido and you want to swap it out in place of the plastic grinds jar. You can do that. This one's also cool because it doubles as a mug. So with that said, I'm going to show you the grinding mechanism, but you're not really going to be able to see it unless I take a couple key parts apart on the Lido. So in order to do that, we're going to start with loosening this screw that is on the bottom here. It's just one screw and washer, and this is what will allow you to then take the adjustment ring off entirely. I'm also using the included hex wrench that comes with the Lido. Set that screw aside and don't lose it. Now with that done, we will be able to completely remove this ring. We're going to need to remove one more screw in just a sec. But this will start to show us the burrs, so if you just need to do a quick cleaning, you could brush out from here. There's a brush that's included with the Lido, and you could use that to clean. But again, you're not going to be able to see the burrs entirely, so we need to remove one more. Oh, and this plastic ring actually is important. This sits here on the bottom of the unit, so you want to make sure you hang on to that. So next, we're going to open our grind handle, set aside this beefy rubber cap, and then we need to loosen this screw. I think I'm gonna need your other, yeah. So one thing I should mention is that I had to use a different hex wrench to loosen this screw right here because it was just too tight to be able to remove using the included hex screw, or hex wrench, should I say. But once I get it loosened, I can start to take it out. But from the factory, this is pretty tight, so you might need a separate one to do it. So I'm just kind of holding the burrs right here against me, and there's that screw. We'll take that guy out. Okay. And then we've got the top part of the Lido right here. This is the funnel, essentially, where your beans can go in. And now that we've removed that screw, we can take our burrs out. Okay. So there's our burrs, and again, they are stainless steel, and yeah, I can't see those breaking or anything like that. Take care of it, and it should last you for a lifetime. And then we're going to remove the locking ring so that I can fully show you the threads. So the threads on the Lido ET are much more fine than they are on the standard Lido. And this is important because it's going to allow you to make adjustments much more quickly. On the Lido, which I've spoken about many times here on our channel, these threads are much more thick, and as a result, it's going to make it not necessarily more difficult to adjust, but to get to a grind, again, like an espresso grind, it's a lot easier to do it when you have these finer threads on the Lido ET. Now we're going to use our other Lido right here to grind. I'm going to show you how that's done. It's actually quite easy, so let's dive in and do a little grinding. Now, so the thing that folks are generally going to wonder with the Lido is, how many turns does one need to make on the adjustment ring section of the Lido in order to get to a certain type of grind? And we're going to talk about that. The Lido has a 0-point hash mark right here, and this does not move. That blue line is just always in place. Then you have your locking ring. The locking ring is going to allow you to, once you find the grind level that you want to go to move that ring down to match up with the adjustment ring, and then that locking ring will make sure that you don't end up losing your adjustment that you have made. So, in order to adjust your grind, you'll start off, I've got the Lido pretty much right now about as tight as the adjustment ring will necessarily go. I need to match up the blue line on the adjustment ring with the blue 0 mark. So this is essentially my starting point, and right now I would be at an extremely fine grind. It would be, you know, a little hard to grind with, but we want to aim for about an espresso grind. So what we found, and we're going to test this, but what we found is that one full turn, there's 17 hash marks all total on this adjustment ring, and one full turn, just like this, so just spinning until that blue line has made one full spin around, is about 300 to 350 microns. So for espresso, we'd be looking for about that, 300 to 350. So if we were to do this 4 times, if I were to spin this another 3 times essentially and spin 4 times, I would have French press. Now I'm going to do an espresso grind today because, again, speaking to the Lido ET, it's very specifically going to make it easier to adjust for espresso grind, so we're going to aim for that. But that's a reference that you can basically use, is that you've got each turn at around 300 to 350 microns, give or take. That could also depend on certain things, the coffee that you're using, and etc. But that's about what we found. And that should give you a good basis to work off of. Now, once I've made my adjustment and I'm kind of aiming for the certain coffee grind that I'm looking for, I'm going to pop the grind handle. And sometimes you might find that this handle is a little hard to get to pop, so you got to press this screw that's right down here upwards, and then your handle can pop. And then once you do that, it's totally locked into place. Now we'll take off this big rubber cap, and then we're going to add some beans to our hopper. Now, one thing that I was saying that I do like about the Lido is that this is a bit of a funnel, so it does make it easier to just pour from the bag if you wish. So that's cool. I have used some hand grinders where you really have to make sure you're using a spoon or something that's included with the grinder, because otherwise you're going to get coffee beans all over the place. It's pretty easy with the Lido. Pop that cap back in place, and then grinding is just as easy as turning your hand. And this is actually really easy. I mean, I'm not actually having to work very hard here. Now with any hand grinder, you might hit a point. You can see I'm kind of sometimes hitting a point there where I get a little hitched up on a bean or some beans, and then you get past that and you get back into grinding. Kind of just depends on how much pressure you put into it. If you're being a little more rigorous with it, you probably won't run into that. But because I'm grinding very fine coffee, this is going to be a longer process. So just keep that in mind. If you're grinding by hand, you need to make sure to dedicate a little bit of time to the process of grinding, you know, and that's one thing that I think for some folks will be a little bit of a turnoff with hand grinding, is it's just going to take longer. But the end product should be pretty great. So let's dive in. Let's see what we've got here. Yeah, this is an impressive grind. Let's go ahead and put this down onto our trusty Lazy Susan. It's very consistent, I have to say, which is a big deal, because that is difficult to get with even some automatic grinders sometimes, is that consistency. But it's very consistent, and I would say that this should work pretty well. I might play with it a little bit in order to get that fine grind that I want for espresso, or if you're doing Turkish, that would require going even more fine, and that's going to take a while to grind by hand. But overall, this is quite on point, I'd have to say. So let's try real quickly just grinding for French press. So now I'm going to go for French press, and I'm going to go for about 3.5 turns. So again, I'm starting from 0, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then we'll go for a half, which would be just about on the back of the device. Yeah, there we go. And before I start grinding, I am going to adjust my locking ring downwards. Just turn it until it gets tight, and this will make sure that I won't lose my adjustment at this point. And this is useful when you are doing these grinds, such as for French press, where you're going to have your adjustment ring much lower on the threads, because then there's a chance that you might turn and end up having it come loose and away. It's not going to fall off from the unit. The adjustment ring won't fall off. It is screwed on, but that would of course make it tough to grind your coffee. So locking ring in place, adjustment ring at around 3.5 turns, and let's grind. So this is even easier. This is much easier than the espresso. I'm going to get through these beans much more quickly. Let's take a look at what we've got here. Yeah, that's excellent. That would make for a really good French press, I feel. Now, you may find that you need to play around with the grind settings a little bit, because the type of coffee that you're using, the roast of that coffee, and of course what it is that you're going to be brewing that coffee in, is all going to be a factor at play here with respect to finding the perfect cup. So this is just a baseline for you to be able to work off of what we've suggested here. Play with it a little bit until you get it right. But gotta say, going there from espresso and then to French press, it was very seamless, easy adjustment to make, and these two are spot on. This would make great espresso, this would make a great French press brew. It's easy. It's really easy to use. Again, the grinder feels great in the hand. It's easy to make the adjustment. I think that locking ring, however, is important, because you want to find what you like and then lock it so that you don't have to do it again and again, especially if you're just, going to always be grinding the same type of coffee or for the same type of brew. It's probably something to keep in mind. I think this is a great way to go, especially if you like to grind for espresso or drink espresso. It's a great all-purpose grinder, and especially being able to go from very coarse to very fine with just a few turns is really excellent. Those super fine threads are really useful for being able to do that very quickly. And it's very easy to use. Comes in at about $199.95, and you can visit FrenchPressCoffee.com to get your Lido. You can also find spare parts for your Lido there as well, including the stainless steel grounds catch jar, which doubles as a mug. So if you already have a Lido but you want to upgrade, check it out at FrenchPressCoffee.com. Or if you need parts, replacement parts, whatever that may be, we've got those for you as well. So there you have it, everyone. That's the Lido ET from Orphan Espresso. I think it's a really excellent hand grinder. You can check out our other videos about the Lido series of grinders right here on FrenchPressCoffee.com. As always, everyone, I'm Brian with FrenchPressCoffee.com. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time, and take care. Did you love that video? Give us a thumbs up. And make sure to subscribe. If you do, I'm going to give you an awesome coffee quote. Don't worry, I can wait. I've got awesome coffee candy. FrenchPressCoffee.com sells these too, guys. Right there. Got it? All right. Forever. That's how long it takes to brew your first pot of coffee in the morning.